together and talk about these things. These are very important discussions. Is to look back to know, how did I feel in both situations? Because we cannot separate our history from our destiny. So we got to know, okay, where do we come from? Where are the areas in my life that I had this happen, where somebody empowered me and then disempowered? And look, we're as leaders, we're flawed. We're going to screw it up sometimes. We're going to make mistakes. But if you have these discussions and you're drawing this stuff out, moving forward, you can amend errors in judgment. 95% of our lives are lived in subconscious patterns. Meaning, if we don't bring to the surface what has happened and look to rectify the situation, we're going to repeat the same errors in judgment again and again and again. And there's this guy named Einstein. He said, insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. And a lot of people in life live in depression and delusion. In 2016, a study came out that said 50 million Americans were diagnosed with clinical depression. 2016. I don't think it's far off now. And we wonder why. And it's because we are consuming information over and over and over and over again. And we want to apply it, think we're applying it, not really applying it. And our subconscious is killing us. And people fall into depression and delusion. So my point to that, again, is constantly have conversations like this so that we can amend errors of judgment moving forward for the people that work with us and for us. So there's this guy named Plato, and he said this important statement in a book he wrote called The Republic. He said, philosopher kings rule the world. Now, he wasn't talking about some wise old sage in a monastery with a long beard controlling the world through telekinetic powers. He was talking about philosophy and it ruling the world. A real simple example of this is in nations, we have philosophies of economic systems. So in the United States of America, we all benefit from the great philosophy of capitalism. Absolutely. And in the old USSR, they had a different system, which was communism. Were the resources in the United States versus Mother Russia that much different? I mean, we just have so many better natural resources? No. What was the difference in the results, however, was philosophy. One philosophy is about truly empowering people. People beg, borrow, and steal to come to the United States of America, not because our land resources are so much better, it's because of the philosophy, where people were trying to mass exodus the USSR because of the philosophy. Philosophy rules our world. Individually, we have internal processes and philosophies, most of which are subconscious, that are ruling our world. And if you can shift the philosophy and the thought process, you shift the results. It is very simple. So coaching is about helping people shift philosophy. And so you, as a leader, diving down with people to see where the philosophy is, where they came up with the ideas that they came up with, the thought processes and the systems that they came up with internally to get the results that they're getting. An example of this, I like to try to stay in shape as much as possible around Christmas and holidays. It's a little challenging at times, but we measure our philosophy as successful or unsuccessful by the results, right? So there's this little thing called a scale that I have. And that is results in your face. You can't hide it from anybody. So, when I go to weigh myself, I take all my clothes off. I make sure I haven't drank water for, 10 hours or so. And you step on the scale, and the scale gives you the results. Now, what most people do when they step on the scale is they get emotional one way or the other. Yeah, I'm awesome. Or, oh, I'm the worst in the world. I can't believe this is unbelievable. But the problem is, it had nothing to do with emotion. The fact is, the system that they're buying into is not working. So all we have to do when results aren't where we want them to be is we shift the philosophy. My brother calls it the eat less, exercise more diet. Which, yes, that's a part of it, but we can get deeper than that. So, certain people's body types are different than others. To get down to an individual and saying, what works for you? That is the most important thing. We like to generalize. We come up with these fad diets. And they sweep across, and some people buy into them, they like them. And have you ever done one? It's just no matter what, you may have done it to a T, it doesn't work for you. Anybody do that before? It is really important in coaching. The philosophy is getting down to the individual's philosophy and what works for them. There are absolutes in life that work for all of us. Character principles work for everybody. Vision works for everybody. Having a roadmap to where you really want to go works for everybody. But as far as carrying it out, individual philosophy has to be brought out to the surface that works for those individuals. That's what coaches do. Mahatma Gandhi had this great quote: a sign of a good leader is not how many followers you have, but how many leaders you create. That's what coaching does. When you actually take time for an individual and you get down to their philosophy and you work with them to create a system that works for them, and you do this at an exponential rate, you duplicate leaders. How many of you in the past year had thought to yourself or actually said to somebody, I wish these people would think for themselves? My gosh. Anybody? If they would just think for themselves, why do I have to answer everything? Well, the issue there is they are not yet leaders. And leaders have to first be able to lead themselves. And you as a leader should be obsessed with helping people learn how to think for themselves and lead for themselves. Stanford University came out with a study in 2017 where they showed that only 1 out of 5 people in our American society have proper critical thinking skills. 1 out of 5. That is 20%. So as a leader, it should be, how do I help people develop critical thinking skills? It's education, asking questions, listening, not giving them the answer. And sometimes you have to do that. There are time constraints. Sometimes you just got to go do this because we don't have the time for anything else. But I want to debrief with you and talk through this with you. The measure of a good leader is not how many people follow you, but how many leaders you create. Just keep that in mind. For all of us, you talk about being bought out, so forth and so on. It's not just about being bought out. I mean, look, you could offload your business, sell it to anybody if you really wanted to. But do you want to leave a legacy? Do you want to know, I left this place better than I found it? And how you do that is duplicating yourself by creating more leaders. Now, I want to show you this real quick, because here's the process of coaching, okay? Most people live here, okay? They want to be safe and in control, low risk, low reward. This is why so many people are depressed and delusional. Deloitte Company showed that 87.7% of people are not passionate about what they do whatsoever. Another study by Harvard Business showed that 97% of people do not have a clear written vision for their personal life. That means a lot of people are lost and they're not passionate. Do you know the opposite of that? Depression and delusion. And people do just enough to get by so they can take care of their basic needs. So, what we have to do as leaders and coaches is we have to invite people to go through this process into the growth zone. And any of you who want these slides, you can email me, or I'm sure you can pass them on. So you can study this a little bit more. But here's where the challenge is with leaders. So whenever I coach somebody, first thing I'm going to ask is, what do you want? This is a really important question. And 97% of people, in my experience, go like this. No, I don't know. It's really obscure. Or they go, I don't know. I really thought about it. I just wake up every day and work. And Brian Tracy once said that a genius without a roadmap is lost in any country. So you could be the most brilliant person in the world, but if you don't know where you're going, or you don't know how to get to where you want to go, you are lost. So what happens though, this is why people don't dream, okay? And they stop dreaming the older they get, and they don't put a vision for their life, is because of this. In order to grow, we have to confront what's called roadblocks. And we all have them. And a lot of them are here. Just like Bob, a lot of them are inside. And it's hard and it's painful. And people don't want to lean into pain. I wrote a book called Do It Anyways, Growing Through Adversity. And I talk about how adversity is actually your greatest friend, not your worst enemy. And if you can learn to lean into pain, you can grow beyond what you could ask or imagine. So this is the process of what we're trying to do with our team members, is invite them to get to this growth zone in their personal life, which, by the way, when individuals are set on fire, they come to work differently. They are way more productive. On average, a person who is passionate, according to that study of Deloitte, are 40% more productive and effective. People who are passionate. So if we can set people on fire, you're going to love to come and watch them burn every day. So we want to walk people through this process. That's what coaching is all about. What do you want? What are the roadblocks that are getting in your way? How do we overcome them? What are you going to do to overcome them? And then as they say, well, I'm going to do this, but I'm afraid, you go, hey, let's do it afraid. It's okay. I'm here for you. I'm going to support you. I'm going to guide you. I'm going to direct you. But let's do it afraid. And I'm here with you. And I'm going to walk this journey with you. And we're going to keep getting better. All right, so the difference between logic and emotion. In business, we like to compartmentalize, especially in corporate environments, and we want people's emotional baggage to stay at home. But let me ask you something. Have you ever had a fight with your significant other on your way to work? I am very imperfect. And I've done this from time to time. I don't know if any of you else have had a little spat with your significant other when you're on your way to work. I have. My performance that day, until I tell her, who was it that said, dude, you are so ahead of your time. It takes about 10 years normally for guys to realize that, yes, dear, you are right. I am an idiot, whatever. But that is really good. That I've had fights and my performance that day is down. So this idea that I can just separate work and emotion, it's a fallacy. It's not true. We don't want people to bring home to work and work home. Have you in the past year brought work home? I think we can all shake our heads yes. Have you brought home to work internally? Yes. What we have to do is we have to learn to find a really good balance between home and work and logic and emotion. Not stuff emotion. Emotion, by the way, channeled in the right area is the most powerful force in the world. That's why during March Madness in a couple months, you're going to see the teams that are inferior in skill upset a team superior in skill. It's passion. Give me a passionate group of people any day of the week that are channeled with the right logic and rationale, and I'll shake the world. So we have to be comfortable enough in our own skin, in our own balance, to help and lead others in logic and emotion. Now I'm going to show you how this works a little bit. First of all, we have the rational mind and emotional mind. Okay? So emotional, it approaches experiential. And it's very important. My wife, sometimes she's so intuitive, and sometimes she just goes, it doesn't feel right. Something about this doesn't feel right. And I'm not always, I have an engineering background, but I was in the Navy, so I was an electrical engineer, so I'm very, very systematic. And my wife says, something doesn't feel right. Or that person gives me the heebie-jeebies. And what I'll find out later on is she's right. She's normally right. Dude, you're so ahead of the game. But yeah, she's just right most of the time. The rational mind, it approaches experience intellectually. Anybody in here, when you were a kid, just tear things apart to see how it worked? Like, I just want to figure this out, tear it apart. And you look at it, and then you think you're going to put it back together, but you don't. It ends up in a closet somewhere all torn apart. But you're trying to figure out how it works. What's the nuts and bolts? That's what this is about. It uses knowledge and past experience. Okay, X and y equals z. In this situation, it seems very similar. We'll use the same approach. That's the approach. Uses emotions to make decisions, can be reactive, tell us how we feel. Now, none of this, by the way, it's not right, wrong. That's not what this is about. It's for awareness, so that we can be wise. We can find a balance in the middle. Everybody on your team is either right brain oriented, and in their natural propensity, everybody has one way that they're naturally oriented. What we want to do is we want to help our team find the balance between the two. But remember this is a great statement. Buried emotions never die. So we want to bring those out and put rationale to some buried emotions. We had a team member just lost his mind over something that you would go, what the heck is going on right now? Lost his mind. Turned into a child in his office, throwing stuff, slamming doors, And I sit down with him, and I got to the root of it, figured out, but he had buried this emotion year in and year out, and expected it just to go away. It does not go away. That's why when people have trauma, when they're kids, they get older, and they have what's called triggers that continue to bring those things up, and in the wrong situation, they'll become reactive. So this isn't to say, well, you shouldn't be reactive. It's to say we are reactive. We are. So let's not fight it. Let's lean into it. All right. So I want to do a little practice with you. Now, everybody grab a partner, and then I'm going to explain what we're going to do real quick. Okay? Now, all of you, where you're comfortable, what I want to ask you to do is write down real quick one issue you're having right now that you want to overcome. Okay, some roadblock in your life you want to overcome. Okay. Now, what I want you to do. So let's take person A. So somebody volunteer to be person A in your group, and you got person B. So first, person A. You are going to ask person B questions for 3 minutes. You cannot give them answers. You cannot offer suggestions. You cannot offer advice. What you're trying to do is help them work through the thought process of what they think the best solution to their problem is. And this is why coaching is so powerful. Because when people come up with their own answers to their problems, they own it. And it actually gets done. If you tell them what to do, they don't own that. If the results don't work out, they're coming back going, what's up? You said this is going to work. Didn't work for me. So coaching is about teaching people how to think through their issues, bring the emotions up, and then come up with the solutions that they will ultimately own. So I'd like you to do that 3 minutes apiece. So person A will ask person B. You'll get as far as you can. I know we may not get to a conclusion, but I just want you to get comfortable in asking questions. Okay, so you're just going to ask them questions. Okay, so tell me what happened. All right, what would you want to do to overcome this? They'll come up with some ideas. How do you think that's going to work? Is there anything else you've thought of? Just start working through that process. After 3 minutes, you're going to switch, and person B will ask person A, and then we'll come to a close for this time. All right? So I'm going to put the timer on, and we'll get started. So grab your partner.